Yeah, so I was like, what about the cloud service providers themselves, right? Because you have this sort of debate that's happening more broadly in cybersecurity about whether companies like Microsoft, like Google, who make some of the most popular products, whether there's more that they can do, maybe at the product design stage, or with things like, you're seeing what Google is doing, sort of phasing out passwords, or just what other companies are doing, right? Make that default setting for your cloud asset, private, right, instead of public, things like that. Is there anything that they can do to maybe better standardize the way that these things get deployed out of the box, or maybe default them to things that you are going to have to consciously go in there and change it if you want it to be public facing, or if you want it to be configured in a way that gives greater access? Can we get at the problem more at that higher upstream level is my question.
Hmm. So I think that we can get there, but it takes a very concerted effort from the community at large to kind of get these bigger players to do that. Google historically does a pretty good job of security by default, in my opinion, at least. When you go into GCP and you're going through their console and you're just deploying different assets and resources and whatnot, you can tell, security is really baked in. They have those options very readily available. In Azure and AWS, they're not always as readily available. And so I think that there should be some sort of warning system, within these cloud platforms that say, hey, this S3 bucket is public. If you want to continue, sure, go ahead. And then you have to confirm it, 3 or 4 more times. And then when you do, an email gets sent to, maybe security or compliance, which really enables and empowers the organization to fight, this non-compliant environment. It'll give them, really a leg up in everything that they're doing in the cloud. And another thing that you have to think of is automating security around all of the pipelines leading into the cloud, right? So what do I mean by that? So if you have a development team that is using a solution like Terraform or something like that to deploy EC2 instances or resources in Azure or GCP, what you would want to do is put different security controls around those pipelines coming in so that it's impossible for someone to deploy an EC2 instance that is public. It's impossible for them to create a security group or a network access control rule that is public to the internet, that isn't as locked down as you want for your environment. And maybe they even have their own separate, accounts, quote unquote, within AWS, because each cloud provider has their own lingo, which makes it more difficult for the professionals to try and do anything. Uh, you know, Maybe you go and enforce those controls that way through the pipeline. When you do that, you're automating your security, and it's easier to work with. You don't have to worry about it as much. You still need to audit that control and make sure that it's doing everything that you expect it to be doing. But it does make your life a whole lot easier when you can get ahead of the ball by automating as much security as you can.